Where is that gonna go?
I don't like the screen because I can't point, but on the southeast, that cul-de-sac is just showing in the future if that triangle,
Oh, it could be platted into smaller lots.
yes, could be subdivided. It's not part of this.
Okay, but why wouldn't that be a permanent cul-de-sac? Why is it temporary?
That's not temporary. That's not the one I'm talking about the temporary to the west. Those
Okay,
are temporary
Okay.
cul-de-sacs.
That's that little one.
I got you.
My pointer's
That little round green circle.
We're gonna buy a pointer here, because this new system doesn't allow the mouse to point, but, I was talking about the two that go to the west.
Okay,
That's showing a ghost plat for how potentially 4 lots could go on that parcel right there to the east.
okay.
And there's really no way for it to ever connect to Bellwether, and it wouldn't meet spacing guidelines to be able to connect up to Steeg Road. So the only connection would be through the Amberley subdivision.
And so at this point in time, as part of the first edition, they're not going to be building a temporary turnaround there.
No, there is
Okay.
no connection to that triangle
That's a
piece. That's under
ghost
separate ownership.
Cul-de-sac.
Yep, that is not
Gotcha.
owned by Pulte, not controlled by them.
Okay,
So not part of this project.
okay, gotcha, thank you.
The Bellwether 6th edition is this green component. So you can see the park, the 5.5 acres of parkland will connect to the park that was deeded with Bellwether 5th, directly to the east, and then will ultimately extend to the open space park that's south of it. Additional parkland will be dedicated when the remaining property controlled by Pulte to the south is platted. The plans have modified to shift the well house up against the street as asked for. That's that circle in the park there near the trail entrance. And the the water tower still remains just north of that large wetland on the south. Again, in a planning study. And I always have to mention that there are examples of what could happen in this park drawn by Pulte, but our Parks Commission will design that park in conjunction with the residents in the future. So this is an idea of what might happen there, not a commitment to what might happen there. This is just a close-up of the park dedication. The trail that will ultimately run through the site then will connect north on the south and then wrapping west side, and then ultimately wind through the site as an off-road trail that will ultimately connect up to Steeg Road. This will be platted in a 20-foot easement with a 10-foot trail so that it can be part of the Three Rivers Park regional trail corridor in the future, should they decide on that alignment. So it'll give options for that connection. So lastly, the phasing plan, the green areas that are shown on the image on the upper right are what we're talking about tonight in this final plat and PUD final plan. The yellow in the upper image and then the lower right image are phase 2. Remember with Bellwether, there was a disconnected portion. This was the Schober property is the piece on the lower left that was pre-platted as an outlot with the original Bellwether, would get platted as a future phase of this subdivision. And then the final phase is the pink on the area, and that would be the final phase of the Bellwether portion of this development on the Van Blair, Combe, and Schober properties. So again, this is just the final PUD plan for these 2 editions, Bellwether 6th edition and Amberley 1st. The plans have been revised to comply with the conditions of preliminary PUD approval, and staff does recommend approval subject to the conditions in the draft resolution. The applicant is still here, and I'd be happy to answer any questions from the commission.
Thank you, Kendra, much appreciated. Anybody wish to start?
I have questions. This is a request for the approval of a final PUD, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and Is it staff's position that this proposed plan is in substantial conformance with the preliminary PUD development plan?
It is.
And our code reads that if that's the case, then it must be approved, correct?
Correct.
So what are we voting on?
Our code requires this to come to the planning commission. But
Okay,
you
but we can't vote no, so we must vote yes. So I guess why are we here for this vote is what I don't understand.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cities that don't require the final PUD to come through the planning commission, but our
Okay.
city wants the planning commission to review it, and I think honestly, it's a way to keep the planning commission up to date on what's happening, but you are correct. Like a final plat also has no council discretion if it's in conformance, but still required by statute to go to them. I think this is similar, but you
Okay.
raise a very valid point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I had just two questions. So on page 3 of the resolution, under C, the house plan exhibit provided, I'm assuming that's something that wasn't included in your, because I didn't quite understand it, but it appears to show structures in Amberley First Edition do not meet required setbacks and must be revised. And there's the 3 lots. Can you explain to me what?
I'm sorry, but can you tell me the number again? What condition was it?
Condition C on page
Yeah,
3.
condition C on page 3 of 7 of the resolution.
Yeah, you can see it.
Oh, yeah, there are 3 parcels where I think all of these are decks that are shown encroaching into the setback. So they need to revise the plans to move those houses out of the setbacks.
Because of the deck.
I think it's a deck, it's not a real house,
It's
Yeah,
just a
right.
footprint, it's a
so
template.
it's kind of silly that
Okay.
it's showing, but
Well, I just, on behalf of me and everybody that has expressed concern about this, I appreciate that the staff had picked that out, because that's the first time I've ever seen that. I've never seen as a condition that lots be revised because of setbacks, and specifically called out. And I know that I had publicly come out to say that that was going to be one of my things. I think that in some of the cases, we as a planning commission have a responsibility to do just as much to ensure that these lots that we are recommending to the city council to approve, that we've done everything we can to ensure that the builders are proposing houses on lots that are acceptable to them, that can house those things in which they may not build at the time of building and might not get done for years, but that they have that ability. So I kind of thought that was it, and so that's why I noted it. I just want to thank you folks for picking that out. That's great. That's on page 5 of the resolution under 13.
Page 5?
I didn't quite, just more curiosity. Any request for the city to inspect the required landscaping in order to reduce financial guarantees must be accompanied by recertification, verification of field inspection by the project landscape architect. What exactly
yeah.
is this saying? I don't think I've ever seen this as a condition, but,
We started adding it, that first 4 is a typo, any request to the city. When we take a letter of credit, there's dollars in there to ensure that roads are built per our city codes and that infrastructure is built per our city codes. And trees are green infrastructure, and so we want to make sure that they're built to the code and to the approved plan. I should have said for all of those. And what we found happening is that developers were like, oh yeah, we did the landscaping, and we'd go out there and then they did not do the landscaping, and.
Waste of time.
So it was a waste of everyone's time and money, and so we said, you know what? You need your landscape architect who drew up the plan to go inspect it and certify for us that it's done right and per the plan, and then we'll come inspect it, and then we'll reduce your letter of credit. So the landscape architect, as Meredith knows, is responsible for the landscape plan. So as long as he or she says it was done properly, we don't waste time. What's been happening is we go out and there's trees that are wrapped in burlap sacks with rope wrapped around them in violation of the plans. We waste time, they waste time. I want their landscape architect to make sure they're doing the job that they designed them to do. So it's just something that's been a policy, and we've felt like it's better to get it into the resolution. It has more teeth. It just says,
Fantastic.
do what you said you were
Wow,
gonna
I
do.
mean, all these, holding, developers, to these standards, that I picked them both out.
Yeah.
And, I'm glad, thank you. I didn't see that before, and I didn't quite understand it, but it sounds like somebody's trying to get out of
Yeah.
paying something for
We do
nothing.
as-built drawings for the civil plans, the infrastructure, the roads and the utilities, and we don't do it for the landscaping, and we think it's just as important, so that's why we're adding it. So thank you.
All right. Well, great, thanks.
It's just moving the squabbling from one location to another, let me tell you. It really is. We're still squabbling. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't have any other questions or comments, so. Commissioner Wu?
About, and it could be in here and I missed it, the plan for the park, how it's going to be planned, we don't ever see that, do we? I don't think we ever saw the plan for,
Wildflower.
wildflower.
Well,
Did we?
well, I know we've seen the park plan for Ravinia, but that was a developer. This is a city park, and it,
So is Ravinia.
So was Ravinia, that was a city park.
I'm maybe thinking of a different park in Ravinia, but there is only one park.
So, Mr. Chair, Ravinia has two public parks,
They have two.
Wildflower, which is built, and the playground right off of Gleason Parkway.
Okay.
That's a city park. We also have a city park in the northwest corner of the site, that's a open space park.
Yep.
Off of Old Sturbridge. In both of those cases, the city gets the land from the developer, and we work with the Parks Commission and the neighborhood to design the park. So we'll do the same here. We'll get the park, and then the Parks Commission usually likes to wait till the development's fairly full, which probably getting pretty close. They'll probably move fairly quickly to work with the neighborhood to design the park. So Parks Commission, if you're on the subscribe list for their work, you'll see when they start kicking that off, potentially this summer
Okay.
for this particular park.
But then the planning commission doesn't really have anything to do with that actual design and standards and
Correct.
color and,
Nope, the Parks Commission leads that. Of course, everything, as Councilmember Nichols noted, is a council decision ultimately, but they will do the heavy lifting on the design. I think for our city park downtown, for example, we hired Wank to, or community park, I should say, to do some designs and go through that process, and we'll probably do something similar in this park.
Yeah, I think I looked at this before and had a question whether you'd get all that parking in there, but I don't know, I'm sure they'll do it. Okay, I don't have any other questions, thank you.
all right. Okay, so we have one resolution to vote on for a recommendation to the city council. Does anybody have any changes or corrections or anything else related to the resolution as it is written?
I don't have any.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the final plan PUD?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion, since we have no choice but to approve it. I will make a motion to approve it.
Okay,
I'll second it.
all right. All those in favor of approving the final PUD, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, it is passed 3-0. Okay, thank you again, Kendra. I'm sorry, I didn't give you an opportunity to say anything or comment or anything. I'm sure if you were compelled, you would have raised your hand and I would have noticed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. I'm Dean Lauder. I'm with Pulte Homes. You know, I think I was here basically if questions did arise. I was going to try to make myself available to field those, but Kendra, of course, is adept at fielding most of those questions. So I just appreciate your support and thank you.
All right, well, and we appreciate you being here because it's more the norm that we do have questions for the developer's representative than to not, but.
Understood. I attended the preliminary plat meeting, so I understand usually there's a lot of great questions that are being asked and fielded, so thank you.
Well, good, well, thank you. Okay. All right, well, moving on then. Can I ask a question about the format of our agenda? So under 6B, we have 120, staff report, 121, commission discussion. Normally they're
Oh, you know, I apologize.
does that mean anything, or?
So the agenda, I think that you have, I did in a rush because we had to get notice posted immediately in order to have the meeting tonight. And so I did correct what's online, but I think what I sent you, I didn't catch that there was a weird formatting thing. That means absolutely nothing.
Okay, I figured, but I just thought, well, if we're gonna maybe re-enumerate.
Yeah, no, I don't know why it did that. I apologize.
All right. Moving on, item 7A, planning project update. Questions and comments. I have one right off the top. Item 1, the garages too. Now, that said it was rescheduled for September 23rd, but was it further delayed, or?
Yeah, I don't know if it's in the council member update, but it did get tabled at that meeting. It's on a Thursday night's agenda, and they're requesting that it be continued again. They're working to address the stormwater issues with the city engineer.
Yeah, I did not see it on the liaison. I got the packet, but I don't see it on the agenda.
On the council agenda?
Yeah. Did I miss it?
It's on consent because they,
Oh.
they.
Well, that's why I
yeah.
missed it. I was just looking under planning business,
Yeah,
so, okay.
yeah.
My fault. All right, well, thank you. Anybody else? Questions? What do we have coming up in November? Anything significant? Something tells me I thought we were given some heads up that something is coming in November.
Potentially, we have St. Therese is back with their site plan,
Oh.
potentially. We're meeting with them tomorrow, we'll see if they're ready for prime time. And then a 12-lot subdivision on Mary Bechtold's property on Bechtold Road. Just a rural subdivision. Those two, I think, are the only two.
Well, and then we
Oh,
have to
continued.
renotice the nonconformity public hearing, which is an ordinance amendment to bring it up to speed. So we're scheduled that for the November meeting.
Okay.
Was this the 60-day? Which one was under the 60? It would have been this one?
Yes, there was that one.
Okay.
Well, that's primarily why we're here tonight.
Yes.
Correct.
This is
it's the
next month.
60-day.
Okay, if there's no other comments or...
I got one question. What's happening with the land that's on the corner of County Road 19 and County Road 10? where they were doing the,
D&D.
Oh,
Well, they are working through their stormwater issues.
Oh, is
And
this-
we're waiting for their letter of credit. So that did get approved. You recommended approval of that. And they've been working through their details. And I think Natalie just yesterday reminded them, we're waiting for your letter of credit and then we can get going.
yep.
They did get a demolition permit. I actually don't know if they demoed the old house, but they got a demolition permit for the house last week.
oh.
So they are
did,
moving
okay.
forward.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, item 7B, City Council Report. And we have so many councilor members here now, I don't know who's giving what report.
That would probably.
Counselor Nichols.
I believe I have the
You're
honor
up.
tonight. So specifics, I'm sure you're all interested in our progress in finding a fifth member for the Planning Commission specifically. So there have been, there's one formal application we have received. There's another who has reached out to a couple council members, I believe, and will be applying. And there are two others who applied previously that I reminded Brad of, and he will reach out to them. So we could have a relatively deep pool to draw
I think
from.
we have 3 in now, actually.
3 in now? Okay.
3 or 4.
Very good. So we'll have a selection process that we have to define the particulars of coming up at the next council meeting. But we will have a choice to make, which is positive.
Okay, so that selection process, I was at I think I was the liaison for that discussion that you all had. Or either that or I watched it online, I can't remember, but, I don't think there's any chance that, I mean, there's still no direct involvement of any of the planning commission members, the existing ones, in that process, right?
We actually talked about that as a concept, I think. And
Yeah.
personally, I'd be willing to entertain that if it's permissible, to have the chair of the planning commission involved. Certainly, you would be able to, I think, through Brad, contact any of the applicants and provide insight as to who you think would be a good fit.
But I mean,
Formally,
just as general policy right now, as it stands, is it confidential who those are?
I believe they get published in the packet. The applications are public.
Yeah. But I mean, like, could we ask right now who they are, or would that be inappropriate?
I think it's premature since we haven't closed the application period.
Okay, that just was curious. Okay, all right.
We also had a pretty detailed, lengthy discussion on the water project and approved the northeast corridor water system to preliminary design, so the 30% design is underway. That'll be revisited, I want to say that was November, we'll get that back from Wenk for further review. That's where we will get an opportunity to give direction as to whether it would be a tower or a tank, or whether a different site might be preferable. There's a variety of paving projects coming up that we will have some hearings on at the next council meeting. We're also reviewing the opportunity for, or what opportunity might exist for a stormwater area charge to deal with some of the long-standing drainage issues that the city has as a formal funding mechanism like what we have for parks and trails, or the TLAC fees that we apply as land is platted. There's a charge that's applied as part of that process. There might be something similar we could do for stormwater projects to deal with things like the Garages 2 applicant is trying to figure out what the scope of the problems are. There's not currently a mechanism that we have other than the general fund to do any remediation outside. This might be something that we could use as a way to deal with some of those long-standing problems proactively. We've had a couple different sessions reviewing a sketch plan on a site that's adjacent to Public Works. If you had a chance to review any of those council meetings, that might be beneficial for you. I'm guessing you'll probably see something formal come through in the next few months. That would be a combination of commercial and residential development in the rural parts of the city. The interesting features of that, there could potentially be a significant trail corridor that would be part of that site. The initial presentation dealt with about I want to say a 65-acre parcel that could have been dedicated to the city as parkland. There was also a second submission where that might have been developed partially into more residences, so that's still being refined. But very interesting development and could be a good opportunity for preserving open space, depending upon how it works out.
So this is OSMP, is it?
I know the second application was. I don't recall if the first was also OSMP. Other than that, any specific items on the list that you would
What
like the
is,
quorum's insight on?
what is the one right underneath the draft solid waste collection ordinance?
So there's a county requirement that we have to provide organic waste recycling as a city. And there were a couple choices for how we could implement that. You could have a drop-off site that the city would have to administer. You could require it as part of the recycling program that we already lead, or you can require it as part of garbage collection. In order to do that, you would have to have an ordinance that would set standards for interval and type of collection. So that was the draft that was presented. There was a draft ordinance for solid waste contracting that would enable different service providers to basically state that they would provide the required solid waste disposal services that the county is requiring us to provide.
So organic, okay, so let's see if I got this right. So regulating garbage haulers to assist with organics recycling requirements. So does that mean that we're gonna get a third, could, as an option, get a third garbage can? I mean, because we already have a recycling and a garbage. Then we need another can for organics?
Potentially. It would depend on the service hauler. So for example, the existing recycling carrier, Randy's, offers a solid waste recycling bag that you can put into your recycling area. So it wouldn't have to be a separate can necessarily. They do some kind of a sorting operation at the recycling center. If it were done as garbage, I'm not sure exactly how the details of each specific hauler's system would function. I know some do offer cans. I don't know if that's required. There might be other ways to handle that.
But then an individual homeowner can just reject it if they don't want to participate.
Yeah, you can opt out.
Yeah. Well,
It just needs to be-
organic garbage sitting in a place, you know, it sounds like maggots and flies and smells. Sorry, I'm all about recycling, but, you know,
It's pretty common. I mean, it's to be done, but I think when you're in a rural area, a lot of people have just mega compost piles. So we, may or may not need it, but
I don't know. I told a guy at Hennepin County that I was spreading my horse's manure on my agricultural field, and that guy had a cow. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. He told me downright, absolutely, what are you doing that for? I'm like, well, it's organic matter. It's going back into the farm field. And he told me that that was all wrong.
Who's-
That,
well, we should do that.
it was a guy at the, he is a environmentalist. And he said, no, you need to build a area where you put it all and let it break down. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. So I maybe get the wrong impression of who's pushing what button here, but,
The manure police.
oh yeah,
it's a big deal when you have a lot of livestock.
you know. All right.
Not tonight.
All right, well, great. Well, any other questions of the city council member?
And we haven't, and what about Beth Hustad? Has any further developments with that project? She received
They're doing
approval.
some early grading application right now.
Well,
I think
talking about
we're
it.
talking about it. So there's some discussion about an early grading request. They have not submitted anything for the final approvals yet to move forward, so kind of in a holding period at the moment.
Okay.
And now that we've been through a cycle of events at Lions Park, how's the residential community surrounding it? Is public safety or Brad or the city given to you guys any information about
I've
any
heard no complaints.
Been all positive.
The walking tour that I did through Bass Lake Crossing, people thought the events were fun, and they did not appear to mind them. So
Wow.
Good.
all is well at this point.
Don't take
that's
that
good.
sign down.
I think that did help.
The sign has helped, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's great.
I have a question. It's my understanding that we have a police officer who's on leave, and I'm wondering if there are any updates. And, you know, I'm just concerned that we have an officer, and I hope he's, you know, well. I haven't heard any updates, and I'm wondering if there are any updates that council can share.
Not that I have heard. I know a lot of that can be confidential.
Sure.
Health information. If you're curious, Brad would be able to share whatever is publicly
Sure.
shareable.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Counselor Nichols, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mayor, thank you for being in attendance.
Of course.
Dean, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Item 7C, other business. So when does it look like a new planning commission member would be decided on by the city council? In November?
I think that was the objective.
I thought it was the 28th meeting. We had
The 28th of November is when they would get selected? Or
No,
20th of
October.
So they would
It was
be
the next,
available.
not this city council meeting, but the following one we make that appointment.
So they would be
For the November,
sworn in for the November meeting?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's the plan.
Good. Okay, any other new business?
So we can add a person X to this.
Yeah, that won't blow up the whole calendar there.
Person X, yeah, the next council.
We'll start January with the new cycle.
Oh, so they don't get added to this.
We'll see.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so the item 8, the liaison calendar, anybody, I will be in attendance on Thursday. Anybody see any conflicts with their schedule? When does deer hunting open?
What zone are you in?
I don't know. I haven't decided.
The 6th.
Well, of course, this is, Thursday.
Why are you doing the 14th and then again I'm back on the November 10? Did you swap with somebody or?
I don't know.
I
how
believe
that-
there was a conflict, yeah, at the last, that hashed out at either the last meeting or the meeting before.
Oh, okay.
The 14th was supposed to be Shulock.
Oh, that's what it was, yep.
You swapped with Jim. You volunteered.
And I'm no doubt covering for him somewhere along the line.
Oh, I think we're all covering for him, so.
Where's the scoreboard? Let's get it on.
All right, well, if there's no changes, a motion to adjourn, I'll make such motion.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
It is hot.